they kind of practice defending their territory by kind of attacking themselves by looking at a shiny surface or a mirror. So they kind of like get scared of their own reflection, but they have a purpose for doing that. And it's kind of driven by their hormones. But when these birds have a hormonal imbalance, they keep doing that, which kind of resulted in this one bird keeping up this behavior for 6 long months. I find that absolutely. Hello everyone, good morning. I hope you're doing well today, and I hope your day is going great. If not, that is totally fine. Welcome to the Early Bird Weekly Podcast, where we talk about birds. I'm Ritiksha Satish Kumar, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the cardinal. We will look into some interesting facts about the cardinal, and sometimes go off track with what's happening outside my window. There was a terrible snowstorm today, and as I look outside, I see cars buried in the snow and frosted trees, and it's a really beautiful view, but the storm was pretty brutal. One good thing that came out of it was that school was canceled for 2 days, and I am very excited to go back to school tomorrow. So yeah, today we're going to be looking at very interesting facts about the cardinal, and we're going to be looking at their habitat, their appearance, their geography, their nesting and mating behavior. We're also going to listen to the bird call. So I'm very excited to get into this episode, and I hope you are as well. So to start off today's episode, let's look at which family the cardinal comes from. So the cardinal belongs to the family of Cardinalidae, and this family consists of New World endemic passerine birds, such as the rose-breasted grosbeak, the scarlet tanager, the painted bunting, the western tanager, etc. So this family mostly consists of grosbeaks, buntings, and cardinals. So that was the family name of the cardinal. But the species name of the cardinal is Cardinalis cardinalis. So I did some research on how this name was derived and what this name means. The name cardinalis, the word cardinalis, is derived from Latin, and it means principal, chief, or essential. So it derives from the Latin word cardos. It's spelled C-A-R-D-O-S, which means hinge or to pivot. So the word was first used in the 12th century to describe the high-ranking ecclesiastical officials in Rome. So that's just a very cool fact about how the name Cardinalis cardinalis was derived. So that's the etymology behind the name Cardinalis cardinalis. So moving on to the lifespan of the cardinal. The cardinal's lifespan is an average of 15 years. It's a pretty average bird. Its wingspan ranges from 25 to 31 centimeters, and it weighs from 33.6 to 65 grams. So it's a pretty average bird. As we move on throughout the episode, we will get to learn more about the population and the population threats and a lot of things about the appearance, the geography, the habits, the mating, and the breeding of the cardinals. So this is just a small introduction before we go deeper into the episode. I just want you guys to close your eyes and breathe. Just let go of any negative thoughts and kind of ground yourself. So close your eyes, breathe in, and breathe out. Breathe in slowly. And breathe out. Last time here. Breathe in. And breathe out. You can keep your eyes closed and open them whenever you're ready. Thank you so much for doing that with me. I hope you feel relaxed and grounded, and now I hope you're ready to go deeper into the episode about cardinals. The northern cardinal, or Cardinalis cardinalis, is a very popular songbird in the genus Cardinalis, found in North and Central America. 7 eastern states have it as their official state bird. So we can see how popular the cardinal is. The northern cardinal was once prized as a pet, but its sale as a cage bird was banned in the United States by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1980. It belongs to the Red Animals collection, which also includes animals like the scarlet kingsnake, the scarlet ibis, and the scarlet tanager. I just found that to be very cool. Another fact about the cardinal is that it is a zoochory bird, which means it disperses seeds. That's the term used for animals and birds that help in the process of dispersing seeds, which is a very good thing for the environment. Now moving on to the appearance. The pigmentation of the cardinal is a very interesting thing. The color of the plumage of the males is produced from a protein called carotenoid. So it's produced from carotenoid pigments in their diet. The coloration is produced from both red pigments and yellow carotenoid pigments. To go a little deeper into this mechanism, the northern cardinal males normally metabolize carotenoid pigments to create plumage pigmentation of a different color from the ingested pigment. So whatever they're ingesting, whatever pigment they're ingesting, doesn't essentially mean that they're going to be showing the same color. When fed only yellow pigments, males become a pale red color. In a few yellow morph cardinals, which is a trait called xanthochromosome, lack the enzyme to do this conversion. So not only do males not exhibit the same color that they ingest, some males also have this disease or a trait called xanthochromosome, which cannot process this protein in order to exhibit their color. So in this case, their beak and their feathers, except for the black face mask, are yellow. So that's a very cool and deep fact about the cardinal and its appearance. Moving on to the insulation. During winter, both males and females will fluff up their down feathers in order to retain warm air next to their bodies. So this is something that many birds do. If you've been listening or watching to my episodes pretty frequently, you would have definitely noticed that I always mention this fact for a lot of birds, especially non-migratory birds that stay all throughout the season in one place. It's very important for them to adapt to the winter, and in order to do that, many birds fluff up their feathers for insulation. So now moving on to the appearance of both the male and the female. The adult male is a brilliant crimson red color with a black face mask over the eyes, extending to the upper chest. So we all know that the iconic crimson red color is very identifiable in cardinals, and also the black face mask, which is a very unique trait. The color becomes duller and darker on the back and wings. For the females are fawn colored, with mostly grayish-brown tones and a slight reddish tint on the wings, the crest, and tail feathers. The face mask of the female is gray to black and is less defined than that of the male. So it's just less defined than the male, but they still have the face mask. A few similarities that both sexes possess are the prominent raised crests and the bright coral-colored beaks. So the beak is very conical. The beak is cone-shaped and strong. I personally think that the beaks of cardinals are very cute looking. I also added information about the appearance of juvenile birds. Both male and female show coloring similar to the adult female until the fall, when they molt and grow adult feathers. So until autumn or fall, these juvenile birds kind of look the same as adults, But then when they start to molt, which means when they shed their older feathers or baby feathers and grow newer adult feathers, they look a bit different. So after molting, they are brown. They're brown about and red-brown below. So their feathers look brown on the about, but underneath they have red-brown feathers, and they also have brick-colored crests, forehead, wings, and tail. The legs and feet of juveniles are dark pink-brown, and the iris of the eye is brown. So these are very specific appearances, but we just have to know that the male, female, and the juvenile have slightly different appearances, but mostly they look the same. Now let's look at some geography facts. The northern cardinals are common throughout Central and Eastern North America, and south from Florida and Mexico down to Belize and Guatemala. They don't migrate and live year-round in woodland edges, streamside thickets, wetlands, shrublands, gardens, and vegetation near houses in suburban and urban areas. So we can see that these cardinals are non-migratory, which makes it even more important for these birds to have adaptations for the winter. Now moving on to some habits and lifestyle of the northern cardinal. The northern cardinals are active during the day, especially in the morning and evening. In winter, they feed in large flocks of as many as 60 to 70. So these cardinals have a habit of foraging or feeding in flocks, and these flocks usually consist 60 to 70 birds, which is a large number. This might be very important for protection because most birds they feel much more safer from predators when they're together or in groups. They mainly forage in open thickets on the ground, but they also forage in bushes and trees. In winter, most will roost and flock together. Males are very territorial, and they will defend their territory from other males. The most surprising thing that I learned about the males is that if the male cardinals see their own reflection, they may attempt to fight this intruder. I just find that very funny. I also have a little story at the end of the episode, which is going to be very surprising, and it's related to this fact. Now moving on to the communication of the cardinals. These birds primarily use physical displays and vocalizations to communicate. Both male and female cardinals sing with beautiful, loud, whistled phrases. So we can listen to a short recording of the cardinals. I hope you enjoyed listening to that recording. So these birds sing for courtship and in order to defend territories. Another fact is that their contact call or their alarm call that birds usually use to alert other birds of predators or to contact birds, their call kind of sounds like the word chips, which I find very interesting. They also use many visual displays for signaling alarms, including tail flicks and lifting and lowering their crest. So these are some body languages and actual sounds that are used by cardinals to communicate. I also came across the group names or the collective nouns for these cardinals. So whenever cardinals are in flocks or if they're found in groups, they can be called a college of cardinals, a deck, a radiance, a conclave, or a Vatican. My favorite is college. If I see a group of cardinals, I'm going to be like, look, there's a college of cardinals, which kind of sounds very sophisticated. And at the same time, I don't see the reason why cardinals have to be called. Anyways, moving on to the diet and nutrition of these cardinals. The northern cardinals are herbivorous. Specifically, they're granivores, which means they eat seeds. They eat the seeds of grasses and corn, fruit like grapes and berries, buds, sunflower seeds, and insects. Sometimes they will also drink maple sap out of sapsucker holes. We also know another bird that loves maple syrup. If you go to season 2, you can listen to the episode about Shima and Nagas, which are considered the cutest bird in Japan, and they have a fascination for sapsicles, which means sap, tree sap, that kind of freezes into icicles, which is, I find that very cool. If you want to check that out, please go ahead. But let's come back to our cardinal here and let's learn about their courtship behavior. The courtship behavior of these cardinals are actually very interesting. Each bird has different courtship behaviors, different ways that mates interact with each other, and different ways that males attract females, and vice versa. So in the case of northern cardinals, they are serially monogamous, which means pairs remain together for only one breeding season, and then they switch pairs. This contrasts with monogamy, which means pairs stay together forever. So this includes examples like ducks, swans, etc. So during the season, males and females engage in courtship displays, swaying from side to side with necks outstretched and crests erect while singing softly. So I find that to be a very loving gesture, and I also want to point out that these cardinals love to sing. They may offer the other bird seed, touching beaks briefly as they do so. So this is a very sweet Lady and the Tramp moment where two birds are feeding each other. So moving on to the nesting and the breeding of the cardinals. They breed from March to September, so from spring to fall. They usually have 2 broods per year, one starting around March and the other from late May to July. The nest is built by the female with a dense tangle of twigs or vines in a shrub or a small tree. So the eggs are greenish or bluish, and they're spotted with brown, numbering 1 to 5. Incubation is for around 11 to 13 days and just by the female, though the male feeds her. So while the female is incubating the eggs or keeping the eggs warm enough, the male actually feeds the female, which is a very, very sweet thing to do. Sometimes when I look at birds, I get very fascinated by the ways that they react and the ways that they show love to each other. She broods her altricial chicks for the first 2 days, both parents feeding them. So altricial chicks are chicks that are dependent on parent care. This contrasts with precocial chicks, which they're kind of independent from the moment they're born. Chicks start to fledge when they're about 7 to 13 days old and are fed for about a month after leaving the nest. So even after leaving the nest, they are still dependent on the parents for about a month. Then they join a flock of juveniles. They are reproductively mature when they are 1 year old. So those are some facts about the mating and the courtship of the cardinals. Now let's move on to the population. Over the past 200 years, this species has increased in geographic range and number, which is a very good thing. However, habitat loss at the edge of their range in southeastern California may lead to the loss of the cardinal population in this area. So, unfortunately, habitat loss is a very common population threat to a lot of animals and birds. As of now, the population of the northern cardinals range from 100 million to 120 million birds. So they are of least concern, which means we don't need to be concerned about their population, but we should not take that for granted. So the ecological niche of the cardinals, or the purpose of the cardinals in the environment, is to act as seed dispersers. So since these birds eat a lot of seeds and fruits, they act as seed dispersers for some plants, thus helping the environment and ecology. They may also influence the composition of plant community through their seed eating. They also sometimes raise brown-headed cowbird chicks from eggs that have been laid in their nests, which is a very interesting fact. I haven't researched a lot about that fact, but that sounds like a very good thing to do, and that sounds like a very interesting thing to learn more about. So if you want to learn more about that, please go ahead. So moving on to some fun facts about the northern cardinal. Fact number 1. Male northern cardinals that are brighter red have territories that have denser vegetation. They feed at levels that are higher, and they have more success with females than males who are less bright in color. which is kind of unfortunate for some birds because some birds have the trait where they can't exhibit as much color, but that's a very cool fact. Moving on to fact number 2, the northern cardinal features as the state bird of these 7 states: Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina. I'm sorry, I was struggling there. So yeah, we can see that the northern cardinal is a very popular bird. Moving on to fact number 3, female northern cardinals sing often when they sit on the nest, which may give their mate information about bringing food to the nest. So the females kind of use their singing tricks to get the male to bring them food, which is, I think, very efficient. Moving on to fact number 4. People are puzzled each spring when they see a cardinal attacking its reflected image in a window, mirror, or a shiny surface. The males and females both do this, most often in the spring or the early summer, in order to defend their territory against intruders. They spend hours fighting without giving up. As their aggressive hormones subside a few weeks later, these attacks should stop. One bird, however, kept up this behavior for 6 months. So they kind of practice defending their territory by kind of attacking themselves by looking at a shiny surface or a mirror. So they kind of like get scared of their own reflection, but they have a purpose for doing that. And it's kind of driven by their hormones. But when these birds have a hormonal imbalance, they keep doing that, which kind of resulted in this one bird keeping up this behavior for 6 long months. I find that absolutely hilarious. Just imagine fighting your reflection for 6 months. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this early bird episode, and I hope you enjoyed learning about the cardinal. I really enjoyed researching about it and learning so many surprising facts about this red bird, this iconic red bird. I really hope you took something from this episode, and I hope this entertained you. Tune into my episode next week when we will be chatting about another cool bird. And don't forget to follow this podcast on social media. If you'd like to message me on Instagram, the username is early_bird_weekly_podcast. Or if you'd like to send me an email, you can send it to earlybirdweeklypodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to ask any questions or give feedback. I'm open to any suggestions for future episodes as well. If you like this episode, you can share this to your family and friends. That is always really helpful. Or feel free to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. If you don't want to do any of those things, just keep listening. I'm very happy to have you here. Thanks again for listening. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.